What's up, everybody? My name is Keonis. I'm a stand-up comedian. Welcome to my third episode of my video diary of my journey into stand-up comedy. So if you're just tuning in and you haven't seen my previous videos, what I like to do is I love to talk about stand-up comedy as something I'm very passionate about, and I love to kind of go over some of the things that people would love to do stand-up comedy, but don't really know what to expect, and kind of kick to them what I've learned over time and everything. So I think this is a great opportunity for some people to learn some new things. Now, typically, I can't sit here and say that everything that I say is going to be the same for you. So there's no correct one way to do stand-up comedy or any one journey that everybody's going to do. Everybody also have their own path. But this is just something I've learned and I love to share with you. So in my last video, I covered getting on stage. I think that was the main focus of that. Getting on stage, getting up the nerve to go on stage. But this time I'm going to take a different route. All right, I'm going to talk about the psychological aspect of stand-up comedy because I don't think this is touched on enough. Literally, the hardest thing to do outside of getting on stage in front of a whole group of strangers in some random place is getting outside of your freaking head, bro. That is the hardest thing, man. You have to build confidence. And in order to build confidence, you should be on stage as much as you possibly can. I mean, any opportunity you can grab that microphone, you should be there. First of all, when you're getting into stand-up comedy, you have to know that there's levels to this. This is no overnight thing. You're not going to immediately be good at this. You have to build confidence in many different areas, and it's all going to take time to do. You got to get comfortable with being on stage. You got to get comfortable with being in open mics every week. Then you have to move up to the bar shows and the random towns or whatever else you might go to, or open mics somewhere else, right? Then after that, you're going to go to the comedy clubs. And once you get to the comedy clubs, you got to be focused and try to be, confident in yourself in a room full of possibly 300 or so people maybe when you get up to that point. That alone is intimidating. Competitions are intimidating. That's another thing, another mental point. Then you got to get on the road. Every one of these steps that you take in whatever particular order you do is all about basically overcoming your biggest enemy, and that sometimes is yourself. Your biggest problem is sometimes you are in the way of you. That's it. In the comedy game, everybody's different. Everybody's coming with strengths and weaknesses. Some people are writers, right? They write. That's what they do. They're good at it. But they may not be able to freestyle. And typically they're naturally funny, but they come off more so scripted, so they don't seem as natural. That might be something that they work on and try to balance out. Then there's people who are naturally funny. I mean, gosh, everything that they say and how they move and how they act is just, that's who they are. They're hilarious, right? But then they may not be roasters, or they may not be a freestyling type of comic, right? Then there's some people who are able to freestyle right off the dome. They can acknowledge everything that's going on in the room. They can bullshit with the audience. That's hilarious. But they may not be able to be as good of a writer and complex with it, right? Writing a complex joke with layers to it, right? And then there's other people who are roasters. There's roaster people who can roast and flame you, dog. But again, they may be naturally funny with it, right? But they may not be able to be as good of a writer. So everybody has strengths and weaknesses. Everybody's different. The common misconceptions that go with comedy. See, this is something that's really important to me because I've always had to deal with these certain issues and stereotypes and whatever, that a pressure I apply on myself and pressure that people have applied on me. So one of the biggest things you dread when somebody finds out that you're a stand-up comedian, they're like, oh my God, tell me a joke right now. Like, you will be at the barber shop getting your hair cut, your dog got ran over, your girl broke up with you, and you getting a haircut, and somebody's like, hey man, this dude's a comedian, man, and you're a comedian, tell me a joke right now. And they expect you. This is the first thing they say. You're a comedian, bro. You're supposed to be able to come off the top of the head at any time you want to, man. You gotta be funny like this. You should be shit, man. Fuck Martin Lawrence. I watched Martin Lawrence back Def Jam and Cedric the Entertainer and shoot comedy. You watch Bruce. Shit, they ain't got no problem with that. they can come out the dome like this, man. You should be like that. You have to realize that when people ask you if you're a comedian, people do not typically take in the amount of time you've been doing stand-up comedy. They say, oh, you're a comedian, and then they automatically pair you up with their favorite comedians or somebody that they've been watching who's been doing this 30 plus years with however many specials on television, and they expect you within your little first couple months or a year to be that quick on your feet and to be this and that. But something that you put on yourself is just that pressure. Like, I've watched and stood in the sidelines and watched other comedians with higher levels of skill and years in the game, you know what I'm saying, go off the top of their head. I had one situation, this guy, Barry Brewer, man, he came in town, and it was a great learning experience for me. Before the show, now we're all nervous. Me and a couple of my friends, we're going through our notepads. We're like, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. We were all like, he's way more experienced, And he having casual conversation. He ain't worried about nothing. This man gets on stage and freestyles and goes off the dome and talks about everybody on this for 15, 20 minutes. And we're standing in awe. Like, how did you do that? So after the show, we sit down and you talk about it. And I'm like, dude, how did you do that? I can't do that. I want to learn. Like, I don't know how to even begin to go off the top of my head like that. And he said, how long you been in the game, bro? You been in the game like about 2 or 3 years? I said, wait, how did you know that? This nigga's magical. He's like, because of the questions you asking me. He said, you have to be comfortable with you. It's a long game. It's a process, right? How can you expect to do what I'm doing at 2, 3 years? I've been doing this for 18, 20 years. And that kind of relieved a lot of pressure off of me. Because, you sit there and you watch people do this and you're thinking, and you've been told by everybody at the barber shop and everything else, man, you gotta be like this. You gotta be like, it's not realistic, right? It's not realistic. Stop sweating the stuff. It comes over time. Which brings me to my last point. Comedy is very judgmental. And you really, really have to accept failure and move forward. That's the only way you're going to get through it. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to kill every time you get on stage. And it's sometimes embarrassing. It will happen. You could literally do 5 shows in a row. Kill it. Walk out, people love you, people hugging you, people taking pictures. Yo, let me get a picture with you. And everything else, man, you are hilarious. And the sixth show, you go in there and you do mediocre, and one of your coworkers happen to be there that day. And they're looking at you like, man, you ain't even that good. Somebody's looking at you like, man, I'm funnier than you, bro. There's a very competitive, judgmental atmosphere that you constantly have to deal with. People don't realize the human in you, that maybe you just wasn't feeling it that night. Or maybe you were off. Or maybe you didn't, rest, or you have some personal stuff going on in your life. People judge you off of what you did in that one show more than they'll look at the amount of times that you killed. So you have to get past that and just keep looking forward. Otherwise, you keep looking back and focusing on this guy who... let me tell you something. I had a situation like that. It was a very interesting thing. So I did several shows in a row, killed them, right? Full rooms, blah, 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 blah. The works. Killed them, right? I took a couple weeks off. Took a little break, a little way. I was a little tired or whatever, and repetition, whatever. And I took that breather, and I got rusty, right? And I got picked for a corporate show. Went there, way out west. Did mediocre, brother. I was forgetting my jokes. My timing was off. It was awful. But just so happened that one of my coworkers was in the room at that time. And my God, man, did this man not let me live this down? He's seen the one time out of however many shows that my other coworkers and stuff came to when I was opening out at somewhere or whatever. He came to that one show and literally had to remind me every day of how awful he thought I was, or how much funnier he is. And well, I hope I find a real comedian, because I mean, he thinks he's hilarious, but I mean, it was pretty awful to me. You know, you have to like psychologically deal with that kind of shit and then try to move forward. You can't keep looking back. You always more shows to go. But it just shows you how much people are willing to challenge you at all times, or are always willing to question you or whatever. Not really taking into consideration that you're a human being, whatever the case may be, that you're not always going to be good. And that does, and one show does not reflect how good of a person, how good of a performer you are. But people are judgmental, and it will take that. They will take that one time and put you in a whole box. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. Remember, stay true to yourself. Remember, hard work. There's no cheating, stand up. You got to put the grind in. You got to build that confidence. It's levels. This is not a race. This is a marathon. It takes a long time. Don't get caught up in the unrealistic expectations of what you should be like or whatever. Everybody's different. You have your own journey. You have your own thing to do. So focus on you and your material. Don't get caught up in competition. Don't get caught up comparing yourself to everybody else. Just do you. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is my video diary.